Mel touches on something that can be very valuable to you. The good thing about there being so many comic book fans in the world is that whether you're talking with the New York Times or your local weekly paper, there's always, most likely, one guy there who's totally into comics. And being able to find that one person, just being persistent at it, can be extremely valuable and pay off in the long term.
So many mainstream publications have like dedicated geek blogs now, like Cape Town on EW or Hero Complex on LA Times. They're usually just, like Hunter was saying, a beat writer on a lot of major newspapers that are into comics or pop culture and geek pop culture.
Yeah, and spend some time, looking at who those people are. Go to places that are media outside of traditional comics media and look for who's covering comics. And a little hint that I can tell you is that, if you can find one email address, odds are you can figure out what their email address is too.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
or they're on Facebook.
But again, don't post your art to their page, please. But yeah, there's so many ways. One of the things that's kind of amazing about the era that we live in, and I say this, having done PR for 16 years now or something, is that it wasn't always as easy to get to these people. In a lot of cases, before you had Twitter, before you had Facebook, or before you had these kinds of resources where you can genuinely kind of find ways to interact with these people, you were cold calling a lot of the time. And even though you're still cold calling,
what was the blue book called? Like the media press was called? Bradley's, or there was some.
it was
No, not Barron's. There was a. Yeah, it was like $2,000 a year to have the address and the phone number of every reporter in the United States.
Is it awesome that we can't even remember what it's called?
Yeah.
As a side note, I actually, because when I first started working in PR, I worked for an indie record label. I made friends with someone in the PR department at Warner Brothers and would get their last year's edition when they would get their new edition. Which was problematic because a lot of times those people weren't at those email addresses anymore. But again, the point is that there are so many resources online for reaching people, and you just have to figure out, again, like I said, tactful ways of doing so. You don't want to spam people. You don't want to, in much the same way you don't want to pitch something to someone that they're not maybe going to be interested in. You also don't want to be, so relentless that you end up sort of turning someone off. But don't be afraid to reach out to people. Frankly, the worst they can say is no.
Imagine it's like a job interview.
Yeah.
You're ultimately looking for a job of some kind, right? And you wouldn't want to, go to an interview and then send the guy 7 emails a day for the next week. Although it happens.
And if you're a creator and you don't feel like you have an affinity for any of this, find your friend that's like one of us and ask him to help you out or her to help you out. There's no shame in that. Some people don't have the skill set to write 30 emails and get rejected 30 times and keep plugging away. I have no problem doing that,
And we don't necessarily have the skill set to write and draw comics. That's why we do this goofy job, right?
Speak for yourself.
So I'm in a kind of a unique position of a film writer and producer, and I've always had a love of comics. So I'm working on multiple mediums to tell the same story, basically transmedia. And I'm wondering how much transmedia really plays a role in what you guys do, utilizing social media and visuals and all kinds of different things to get the word out to about the product.
Well, it depends on what your definition of transmedia is. We launched Comicsology Submit at South by Southwest a couple weekends ago, and a good buddy of mine, Shannon Wheeler, who created Too Much Coffee Man 20 years before in Austin. I had told him about Submit previously, and he was like, "Oh, cool! Can I be on the alpha or the beta test?" I'm like, "Sure." And so he used it, gave us feedback, and then when we figured out we were going to launch it South by Southwest, he created Too Much Coffee Man Austin. So it was like, great, come down to Austin and we'll put you on the panel, and you can talk about your experience, using the self-publishing portal. And one of the things we had him do is make little funny cartoons about his experience at South by Southwest and send it to VentureBeat, and so VentureBeat ran the articles and we socialized and stuff. So, I mean, that's one way of using, comic book storytelling, as a way to get earned media, which is, earned media is a fancy way of saying getting press. But I like earned media. I like that. I like it. It feels like something you bought. But yeah, I don't know.
I think the key to transmedia is synergy. You need that synergy between the different mediums if you're promoting the same IP or property. At Archaeo, we do graphic novels that are often extensions or adaptations of the same property that say is also a video game or is also a movie. I think one of our fortes is that we do really great graphic novel adaptations, but the key to keeping or to increasing it or having people be aware of it is that people who watch the movie need to know about the graphic novel and vice versa. So you need that cross-promotional synergy, and I think that you all win in the end. For instance, we do Fraggle Rock graphic novels. We're publishing a small Fraggle Rock mini comic that's going to be inserted into the 30th anniversary DVD set. So there's that synergy that the different companies that work on the different products, like we do graphic novels, they do the DVDs. There has to be that relationship, and the person who owns the IP has to be the one to help manage that. I think that the synergy is definitely important.
And I would say, to that point, also make sure that everything you're doing and every bit of storytelling you're doing is meaningful to the overall story. I mean, you don't want to sort of do a comic for the sake of doing a comic if it doesn't enrich the experience of the film. Also at Dark Horse, we do a series of different video game comics, and one of the things that we've done is work directly with the video game publishers, with the writers, and making sure that we can actually tell a story that as someone who's playing the game, they're going to want to read because there's going to be background on something that's going to further enrich their experience. Again, it's all about, in transmedia, you have to expand the experience.
I try to make everything that we do at Valiant, no matter if we're on social media, if we're in an app that's outside of the traditional comics reading experience, it always points back to the storytelling that's coming from the comic. That's our primary medium, and there's no real deviating from that. We're putting out an app for a Harvard Wars miniseries that will be a little side-scrolling video game, but in every breath after you hear us talk about that, you'll always hear about Harvard Wars #1 on sale April 3rd.
Which, by the way, that game is genius. Dinesh showed it to me. I was stoked.
When's Harbinger Wars going on sale?
April 3rd.
I can't wait to read it on Comixology and buy it on Comixology on April 3rd. Okay. Hang on. I'm going. Anybody over here? Anybody in the back? No. Lamos. How about, back here? No? Okay.
What about this?
Okay. You. Last question. Make it stick.
What are the best and worst things about using social media for promotion?
It's difficult being clever all the time.
Trolls.
Yeah, trolls. Yeah, I second that.
One of the best and worst things about using social media for promotion. I would say one of the best things that social media has given to marketing guys like myself is accessibility, and the quickness and easiness of getting the word out over Twitter has helped me, at least. I'm sure it helped these guys as well. But just getting the message out to thousands of people at the same time, and you do it for free.
Was it worth your time, sir? Who's leaving? Was it good? Was it worth it? Okay. Thanks for your honesty.
But yeah, the danger, of course, of using social media is that you are open to a lot of trolls, a lot of people who want to bait you into a flame war. My strategy is always to ignore those things. Once you engage someone, that's it. They know they've got you. So I just ignore. Block this person. so that I don't have to hear from him again, or whoever this person is again. But that's the thing about social media, you know, you have to take the good with the bad with the good.
We're getting a hug. Is there a panel after this one? There really is? We really have to stop? We're having so much fun
I know.
though.
If you guys are the last one, I was going to let you go over because that's what I usually do, but you aren't.
Well, thank you all for attending the WonderCon 2013 edition of Indie Comics Marketing PR 101.